long term.
Out here on the property, looking at doing some changes. I'm just going to shoot around here, and there's a roadway there. A lot of people drive along there. You got a field that's rotated with beans and corn. It'll be corn next year. And again, the year where it's beans, of course, why would deer be out here in this area? Because of all the road traffic. Down that way, it's a lot of trash, but it's really short. So I mean, it could be summer bedding, but it's not even effective summer bedding because the grasses are not even very tall, mainly bushes, shrubs, berries, almost non-existent. We want to get into putting a stand at the end of that field, and there's also a stand right there. We want to get into the stand coming down that way. We're going to have some switchgrass. We're going to berm it, etc., etc., where we can get into these stands away from where the deer are. So what we want to do is we want to have bedding there. Behind those trees, we're going to have like a narrow little logging road area that we'll actually use inner sanctum. Not a lot of feed, but then again, we're going to get more inner sanctum, maybe another 100 yards in front of me. And then at the end of that, there's going to be a little bit of an open, about an acre on the end of that field behind there. What we're going to do this year is we're going to put some switchgrass right across that to that tree, pine tree, where I'm standing, to the ditch. Right next to it, we're going to put a path of fortress. So the switchgrass is only going to get to be about 3 foot tall this year. The fortress will grow 6, 8, 10, 12 feet tall. It won't be 14, but picture this too. The other reason we're going to do it to where we're at is the farmer will have corn next year. They'll have beans the following year, but there's a little rise. There's some lay of the land. So we're gaining a little bit of height right here, and maybe it's hard to see, it slopes down that way. So again, we're up higher as we're looking across. We'll have a little screening, which will gain a little height because we probably got another 2 foot of drop to the edge of the field. We'll be planting Elite right from there, right in front of the face of the stand, and the stand will pull in a little bit too, tuck back in the trees. You can hardly see it, which is good. So what we'll have is like a little honey hole, isolated from the road, short-term and long-term, no matter what the farmer's planting for corn and beans. And again, I'm going to draw in a little bit. So behind the stand, maybe you'll see there's a bunch of berries, grasses. It's kind of wet behind there. So we will have the deer, and there's also pines and the cedar, right? And they're going to funnel from the neighbors across this way to create a little travel corridor, predicted movement, scrape line. When they come from the neighbors across the road into those pines and eventually having bedding there, they're going to move that direction behind the stand. That stand will be able to shoot deer on the other side, as well as in this little honey hole of Elite. To get in the stands, we're not busting deer because we don't want to have a lot of bedding down here. Yeah, there's some grasses. Yeah, it's wet. It's not effective bedding. So to get into that stand, we're not really busting deer because we're away from their primary bedding. And again, their primary bedding is a couple 100 yards that way. We'll be able to come across the fence line. We're also going to do the same strategy. Switchgrass next to fortress, cutting across. There's a little ridge, a little rise, utilizing the rise of the field. And then on about where the four-wheelers are, it drops off. It's a little wet. The food plot will be right on the end of that area, kind of creating the same effect as what we're doing here. So we have a lot of ways to get into these stands without walking through and busting deer, but yet we can get more predicted movement. And again, we're utilizing an existing cedar tree, pines, the hang hemp ropes, make mock scrapes. They're already doing that in these areas. And again, funneling behind, and again having opportunities that we can kill a deer on both sides of the stand. The stand that's pretty well hidden, the stand that's far enough from bedding. I know I'm rambling, but that's what we want to do. Visualize how you can utilize the land to your advantage.